Okay, I guess we are live now. Sorry about that. I have to be honest with you. I was actually in the bathroom watching YouTube clips, and time passes. Let's see. I'm just going to tweet this, and we are live. Oh, I forgot to turn off this one. Okay, cool. And then let's go to my dashboard on Code Sandbox, week planner. Yes, here we are. Let's make it a little bit bigger. Okay, cool. So again, I got some feedback last time. This is starting to get really interesting because now I'm also getting feedback on the actual implementation, which is super awesome. So I thought we could look into that first, make a change to the current implementation, and then I also worked on the type issue thing. So just to give a short summary of what we did last time, what we did is that we created this effect, this Firebase effect, and then we made that in the previous one, and then we refactor it to become asynchronous, so that we're loading the Firebase library after the app has actually fired up. And then we had this a little bit awkward code here where we wanted to grab the state of the user, like the auth state. And this is what we're going to refactor. Another thing we looked at is that we tried to use a state machine. So in our state, where is that? Sorry. In our auth namespace, we have a state machine, which can move into different states and gives different and ensures different state values based on the transition state we are in. So for example, we only have a user when we're actually authenticated. Yes. So what we're going to do first is to try to fix this typing issue. And we're going to do that by actually installing the latest version of Overmind, because I did some deployment. Let's see, Overmind. And I'm just going to keep everything in sync with the packages here. And what I changed, hopefully this works now. Let's see. I have to wait for the typing. I might have to refresh to get this new typing. Let's see. Let's try to refresh. And hopefully it works. And now, anyways, I'll explain what I did. So what I did is that now we are providing a new, there we have it. As you can see, yeah, why did I have to refresh? I would consider that like a bug. Yeah. Let's make a note of that. Bug on updating package with new typing. Cool. Yes, so what I did here is that, and this is the difficult part with creating APIs with TypeScript, because sometimes you have to change the API to get the typing correctly. And this is such a perfect example of that. And another issue is that when you make that API change, that doesn't matter to a JavaScript developer, and balancing this is super tricky. So for example here, it's perfectly okay to write this code, and then with plain JavaScript you wouldn't really care. The problem is that we have moved into the authenticated state, and then we want the typing to adjust to that state. And the way we do that now is that we say current or whatever you want. And then when we point to current, you see that we have the user there. So now we're actually able to add it as normal. So it's basically just pointing to state.auth, which is the state machine, but it's typed related to the transition state you're going into. And again, you don't have to use this technically, but because we have TypeScript, we want to adjust the typing, we have to expose this. Another example of this is, for example, with stitches. We have this configuration, We have tokens and stuff. Maybe we can look at it later. But and you have these options, and based on those options, we want to change the typing of the tool you use to compose everything. So we have to expose a function that takes this option and just returns it. It doesn't do anything with it. It just takes it as an argument and then returns it. But the typing is different. So it takes the options object and the typing of the options change on the returned version. And then you pass that into the thing. And my point is that for a JavaScript developer, it makes absolutely no sense to use that function because it doesn't do anything. But for TypeScript users, it makes a ton of sense because it changes the typing. And then you can like argue maybe that's bad API design, but this is the problem. Like in JavaScript, we have a very different approach to APIs. They are much more fluent, I would say. Just take jQuery, for example. If you were to implement that in Java or C, what's it called? C#, you wouldn't create that kind of API. You would have tons of classes and stuff. And that's where I think JavaScript is super nice, because it gives more flexibility in how you express APIs. And you could argue that forever, but yeah. Okay, I'm going way off here. So what we're going to do, as I got a comment on, I'll try to actually remember the names of people commenting so that I can highlight it. And this time it was Johnny, or Jonny as we would say in Norwegian, who commented on authenticating when we initialize. Because the thing is with this on-auth state change, this might fire at any time. Like my thought process was that, okay, we want to authenticate when we load the app, and then it doesn't really change like by itself. You would have to explicitly log out. But technically it can happen at any time. I believe, for example, if you were to log out of your Google service on Gmail, you would also actually log out of this app, for example. So if you had it open in a different tab and you change to that tab, with this code, nothing would happen. But with the change we're making now, it's actually going to do something. And it also introduces like a different pattern that we use in Overmind, where we actually, like these effects are something separate from Overmind. They don't really know about Overmind, but sometimes you want them to be able to access state. You want them to be able to trigger actions. And that's exactly what we're going to do now. We're going to allow this API effect to trigger an action whenever the auth state changes. And then we're going to move our logic here into that action. Okay. So maybe we could create the action first. So in our auth thingy, we are going to export an action called onAuth changed. And that's either a user or it's null. Oh, it didn't see it. That's okay. It's like this locally with VS Code as well. I wonder what the criteria is for discovering these types actually. Import user from Firebase. Cool. Okay, so we either get a user or we get null here. And what we want to do is basically move this logic here. Oops. So we are just going to, yeah, let's look at that later. So what we get here, we get the state, and then we actually get the maybe user. Well, I can say user. And then we are going to, let's see. Yeah, it doesn't know about the state yet because we haven't attached the action to our configuration. So we can do that first. So let's import all this action and all future actions from actions. And then we attach that to this namespace. And then when we move back here, now we have the typing for everything. So this also shows like an example of how nice the typing is. You kind of just expose stuff on the configuration and it just pops up. Okay, so what we did now is that we just move this logic so that whenever this action runs, we check if it receives a user, and if it does, we are going to move into the authenticated state and set the user. And if we don't get the user, we need to move into the unauthenticated state. Cool. So let's save that. And then we are going to change this. We are just going to initialize it. It doesn't have to be async anymore. And we need our actions here instead. And then we are going to actually pass this action into initialize. So let's see, on our effect, let's remove all this silly stuff. This doesn't need to be async anymore as well. Let's remove this, let's remove all this. And let's rather type, oh yeah, it needs to be async because we're awaiting the import. Cool. And then we need like a on-auth changed callback here. And what's interesting about this is, and I get this question sometimes, like when we define our action up here, we are like defining the Overmind action, which has its injected context. But when we consume an action, we consume it as a normal callable, if that's a word, function. So I'm just going to, and this callable function is just a function that takes a user. And that's exactly what we're going to type here. We get a user or nothing, and then it doesn't return anything. So this is our callback. And then we're going to use that callback on auth changed. And as we can see, it actually matches the callback here as well. You see we get the user or null. So that's nice. And we don't really need to unsubscribe from this, as Johnny said as well. By the way, we are going to later, with some pending stuff happening at Code Sandbox, I'm going to open this more up so that you also are able to like contribute directly with code, and we can look at that in the live stream and then like merge it in and stuff. It's going to be super fun. But yeah, okay, so now we have our on-auth changed. And then we have to pass this in. So actions of on-auth changed. And TypeScript is happy. And hopefully the app is happy as well. Let's look at the DevTools. Yes. So on initialize now passes in initialize. And then there's like a new action that triggers because we're first grabbing Firebase. So all of this stuff happens asynchronously. And then we get, then we see our on-auth changed running to unauthenticated. Cool. That was a nice refactor. So what we need to do now is to start cranking out some UI here for the button. Let's see. Okay, so we have loading here. Maybe we should try using stitches now, because we want to like center the button and stuff. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, I honestly can't even remember the API for this. Let's see. So we're going to just use the plain stitches at first, and then I want to actually configure it. So let's create like our own CSS instance. So we'll do that. Oops. I like to create folders for this so that I can, if I need to add some additional files related to this, I have the possibility to do that. So let us to just import this thing and export const CSS. Yeah, let's just do this. Create CSS. And then I don't think I actually need to add the tokens and stuff. Or do I have to do that? I can't remember. We'll figure that out quickly. Okay. Let's see how we'll do this. Components, app. Let's import CSS from CSS. And then let's just try to center something. That's always fun in CSS. So I'm going to try an approach here. I'm going to call it styles. So I'm going to create my styles at the top of the component. And then I'm going to say like container. And then we're going to compose, what's it called? Display flex. And then justify content. What's it called? Center. And then align items. I'm sure there's a better way to do this, but this is how I always do it. And then we'll add, let's remove this class name. And then we'll use styles.container instead. And I'm not sure if this actually does something. Woo, nice. Okay, and I guess we should put this stuff into its own div. And then we also want this container to be, height is 100 view height and width is 100, something like that. Yeah, now we're getting somewhere. Okay, I didn't mention this in the introduction, I think, but we're going to focus on like a mobile friendly version of this. Because yeah, like the app we're going to build, my girlfriend and I, we're using our mobiles for this. We're just going to do that and then kind of lock it at the max width and then just make it gray around or something. I'm not really good at doing design and stuff, so yeah, we'll just do that. Okay, so what we need now is a button because we're going to log in. So let's create that button. Login. Cool. And maybe we should focus on the logic here first, and then we can go in and style it in the next episode in case we get into some issues here. Cool. Yes. So what we can do now instead is maybe we can, instead of having this loading thing, we can do this, and then we can say like it's disabled. I'm not sure if this is a good user experience, but we're just going to do that. Cool. And then when we click it, we need to authenticate. The question is, how do we do that? Firebase of Google. I don't remember the API for this. Firebase authentication. I think we need to go to, oh, we're on authentication. Web, sign in with a pre-built UI. No, that's no fun. We're going to do this on our own. Okay, so we have this Google Auth provider, and this is also kind of tricky stuff because it's not like a single API, I think. You have to do different things. So we're going to see how we can do this in our effect. Sorry about the noise outside. It's getting hot here in Norway, so I have to have the window open. Custom OAuth provider parameters. I don't think we need that. Oh, here we are. And also the tricky thing is that we want to use this on mobile, and I believe there's like, yes, exactly, sign in with redirect. So we have to check if you're on, maybe we can just use the mobile version. So we do like the sign in with redirect. Yeah, let's do that. Because we need to do that on mobile anyways. Okay, so we have this thing called a provider. Where did we create the provider? And then we use the sign in with redirect on that provider. And then we will be redirected back to the app. So we need to go and check if we have a redirection result. And that is what is actually going to give us an access token. We can use it to access the air. We don't need that. I don't actually think we need to do anything special here. I only think we need to run this thing, and then when it redirects back, it will do like a new on-auth state changed, and then we'll actually be in a authenticated state. Okay, so let's try to implement this. We are just going to create like a thing in our effect. We are going to call it, let's see, initialize sign in. That's a nice name. And we need, oh, we actually need access to Firebase here. Okay, so let's say, and then we say Firebase. Do we ever need access to the app? Yeah, let's have the app here as well. Yes, and we have to, let's see, what did this thing return? I guess something Firebase-y. Namespace, oh, it's a namespace. Can I do this? Firebase? No. Oh, I wonder how we do this. How do we actually type the namespace of Firebase? Because that's just the namespace. Oh, this is interesting. Huh. Okay. I have actually no idea how we do this. Auth. Firebase auth.auth. Okay. Firebase.auth. But now we actually import oh, this is not good. Because now we're actually importing Firebase. But we don't want to import Firebase. That's interesting. Wow. How do we do this? We can't find this type without pointing to the that's what? Firebase type, yeah. Firebase probably in global. Oh yeah, so we don't have to import it. We can just say Firebase. Ah, okay. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Brian. So we can just say Firebase. Can we do this? No, can't use Fire. Okay, so we have the namespace. It understands the namespace, but we can't use that as a type, which is interesting. Okay, but let's get moving here. Yes, okay. And then we have, yeah, and then this doesn't work because we don't have the correct typing, because when we import this, it's a namespace, and we can't use a namespace as a type. How the hell do we do this? Oh, this is super frustrating. There must be like TypeScript Firebase type. TypeScript using namespace as type. Stack Overflow, that's the go-to. You have to do type of. Yeah, but we can't use type of because then we have to import Firebase, I guess. Or does it understand that? Maybe it does. So maybe you can say type of Firebase. No, because then it becomes a value and we don't want to actually import Firebase. This is insane. Like I want all of these things to be, yeah, well, you know, this is programming for you. I have no idea. Import type Firebase from Firebase. Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, we should add that to the list. Support type import. I do not think we actually support that currently. Maybe we do. What is it? Oh, its value is never read. Oh, yeah. I don't think it actually. Yeah, can't use it as a type. Let's see. You know what I'm going to do? We have to move on and we'll have to figure this out later. And then we'll just do as any here. Like we always do. Oh yeah. And then we have initialize. App is Firebase. Initialize. Yeah, and now how do we get this type? Wow, this is really, really bad. Yeah, wait, of course. That's a good idea. So we can do, yeah, let's, oh, yes, this is going to work. So load Firebase. So now we're actually able to infer that, and we can say return type load Firebase type of. This should work. And then we just say load Firebase. And we will await that. And then, oh yeah, and this now becomes promise. So we, man, this is crazy. That's async, so we're getting a promise there. Sorry if I'm ignoring any comments. I'm stuck in my brain. Okay, I'm going to do something crazy here. Okay, so this is showing you some TypeScript black magic here. Like this is just crazy stuff. We have to figure out a better way to do this. But what I'm doing here is that the issue is that the load Firebase now returns a promise of our Firebase type, which we want to access. So what we're doing is that we're grabbing the return type of this function, which is the promise of the Firebase type we want. And then we can do this thing called extends. So we are checking if this thing here extends a promise, which it does. And then we can infer, oh, I have a meeting shortly. And then we can infer what type is inside the promise, which is our Firebase thing. So then we use that. That is the actual type that is on this Firebase thing. So yeah, at least this gave you some insight into some dark areas of TypeScript. But yeah, we if someone has like an example of how we can do this better, that would be awesome. But this is so annoying. This is, you want to implement something and you get stuck in typing, and that happens sometimes with TypeScript, and it's super frustrating. But I know, like, objectively, the benefits is way more than like the drawbacks. It's just that you experience the drawbacks very consciously, while the benefits are kind of like just happening all the time and you don't really notice it. Anyways, let's try to do our sign in here to finish this off. So we have our provider, and then we have Firebase auth. What was it called? I forgot already. It was, oh yeah, Firebase auth sign in with redirect. Yeah, and like it might break now because we're trying to sign in from this thing. So we'll probably get an error, but I'm going to fix that for next time. I have to adjust it in the configuration of, maybe we can just do that. Firebase. I don't think you'll see any crazy secrets there. Dev authentication. Where did you set up the project settings? Where do you set up what domains can use the authentication? Oh shit, I don't remember. Oh, here we are. Add domain. Let's add this domain. Add it. Okay. Let's see what happens now. Then we'll let's see. Let's just refresh to make sure. Let's log in. Does it do anything? Oh, we have to add an action. We have time for that. Okay, so let's add our sign in action, and it's just an action that calls effects.api.signin. Cool. We have that, and then we go to our component and we say on click. We need to grab actions, use what did I call it? Use actions. You want to import this for me? Thank you. Actions sign. Oh, auth sign in. Cool. So the interesting thing, let's just look at that first. The interesting thing now is that we can now use our state machine to ensure that we only sign in when we are actually state auth, when we are unauthenticated, or actually we can just do this state.auth. We move into the authenticating state first, and then we actually run this sign in, which means that you can only move into the authenticating state if you are unauthenticated, I guess. Let's look at our state machine. So when we are unauthenticated, that is when we can move into the authenticating state. Meaning that if you were to click the button multiple times, we are already authenticating. So it wouldn't actually run this logic. So we're kind of protecting it, that we can only run sign-in when we successfully move to the authenticating state. So this is the power of state machines. It kind of guards your logic. So it should also become like disabled now. It did. It redirected and something bad happened. Yeah, this is probably because I'm on Code Sandbox, or maybe it takes time before the thing fixes itself. But at least this gave us some indication that we have some logic running here. You saw me moving into the authenticating state. You saw the button, what's it called? Disabled again. And then we ran this logic. So I have to figure out why we are not able to use Code Sandbox for this login. We have to figure that out. There might be some other domain stuff I have to activate first. Okay, but I think this is good for now. We got stuck in some typing issues, but that's like, that's how it is developing apps. And this looks like dark magic, and we should make that better. I'll think on it, and if you have an idea how to make it better, I'll also read the comments again. We can refactor that. I guess this will be on Monday then, which gives us some time. But yeah, like this is an improvement, and it's really fun for me that we kind of did this together. And as I said, later we are going to even, like, you will be able to contribute with actual code as well. So that's going to be fun. We could also, what we could also do here, we can, yeah, maybe you're drinking coffee and kind of like sitting back in your chair, but I could invite you to the sandbox itself so that you can kind of like follow and look at it at the same time. But yeah. Okay, that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and let's get this stuff done on Monday then. Okay, bye-bye.